Welcome to the Young Granny Show. I'm your host, Brittany. We're skipping the midlife crisis and diving straight into the cozy world of all things Young Granny. I will highlight artists and creators who share their passion for slow living, creativity, and the art of a handmade life. So grab your yarn, a cup of tea, and let's get started. Welcome, Cheyenne, to the Young Granny Show. I'm super excited to have you on today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So Cheyenne, she is the founder of Domestic Daydreams, which is an incredible, to put it very simply, too simply, cleaning platform, daily routines. She has podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, which is where I found you, and you're just chock full of very realistic, easily easily adaptable to your life cleaning routines that are like super helpful. So let's get started. What is in your comfort cup today?
Okay, so in my cup, I have this, it's my favorite tea. It's weird that it's a tea, but it's called Teachino. It's dark chocolate flavored tea. Ooh. And I thought it was such a weird idea. I've always been a tea drinker. But then I tried it, and it actually really is so good.
Yeah. Is it like a black tea base with chocolate, dark chocolate?
It is just, I think it's straight, like, it's like steeping cocoa beans. Ooh. I think. Yeah. So, and it's supposed to be energizing, but I just drink it because it tastes like chocolate.
That's amazing. Do you add does it need anything? Do you add anything?
I add honey and cream.
Yum. Yum. And hold up your amazing mug. This is the cutest thing. If you're watching or if you're listening, it's a mug with a black and white mama cow and a little calf, and the handle is a cow. Black and white cow.
Oh, I love it so much.
It's so cute. That's awesome. Okay, so I am really curious to know, how did Domestic Daydreams come about?
So it was kind of a long journey. It started out when I was working full-time, but I had to commute 3 hours a day to my job because we lived really rural, so there weren't a ton of job options. And I was also running a homestead at the time, so I had sheep and chickens and ducks and meat rabbits and all the things, and I was just super busy, and my house was a wreck, and I was struggling with my ADHD, trying to figure out, like, how do I keep up with all this? I wasn't married at the time, so I didn't have a partner to help me with different things around the house. And I had tried like every cleaning routine. I had tried Fly Lady and Clean Mama, and they were all great. They all had their benefits, but I couldn't quite make them work for my brain and my schedule. So I came up with my tasks and my cleaning system and would kind of do that. It was like 5 daily tasks, but it rotated through the weekly and monthly. So I never had to spring clean. I got through all of the cleaning and the, clutter and just kind of the major things. And then that was that. Like, I was like, okay, cool. I have a system for me. And I ended up starting my first business while I was working that job, publishing children's books. I would take books like Anna Green Gables and Pollyanna, and I would annotate them with like life skills for kids. So I'd teach knitting or whatever the characters were doing. I would also teach them how to do that in the books, and then I published them. Yeah, so that was really fun, and it kind of picked up off of that public domain thing. And I found out that old radio shows from the 1950s were in public domain. And I was like, wait, this would be perfect for me to be able to turn into cleaning routines, because before that, I would just use the Sleep Timer app on my favorite like audiobook or Spotify for podcasts like platform, and I would go through my cleaning routine. Okay, well, I need to do the dishes, so I'm going to set the sleep timer on my podcast for like 10 minutes, and when it stops, that's when I move on to the next task, and I'll reset the sleep timer. So when I found these old radio shows, I'm like, hey, I could actually just record this and build it right in, and it would be able to just play through, and I wouldn't have to do anything crazy and just follow along with my own routine, because I just have to have something. It felt like body doubling, and it made it so much easier. And so that's kind of where that idea was born.
That's amazing. I love that. So that really resonates with me. I have downloaded so many cleaning routines, some of the ones that you mentioned, and they all are super motivating. I'm like, yes, I can do this. This makes sense. And then I go to do it. Like I print most of the time, honestly, I just print off the PDF. Sometimes I'll laminate it. I'll get some expo markers. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna, adapt this new thing. Not once did I even try it because I go to look at it and it can, like, my brain just kind of freezes and it's like, nope, can't do, I can't, it won't. My brain will not let me
Yes.
do it. Um, but yeah, so that resonates with me a lot. So in your podcast, you have the 1950s radio show episodes. And if somebody was to tune in, if somebody was to tune in, you guide them through kind of interspersed through the radio show. You guide them through a cleaning routine. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 5 tasks really in each episode. It only takes 30 minutes. And when people are first starting out, sometimes they'll have to pause, the routine to finish a task, and then they'll just press play again. But I've noticed that, and this happens to me too, if I get sick and the house gets behind or something like that happens, or, I've struggled with depression before and had things get behind me, whatever the case might be, if the house gets behind, usually there's kind of some pausing and finishing a task and then pressing play, but I've noticed that within 1 to 2 weeks, there's usually time left over from those tasks. I do have hour-long episodes too, but the 5 tasks are you'll air the beds and start a load of laundry, and I have assigned loads of laundry for each day of the week so that you don't even have to think about what load of laundry to start, because the goal is really to remove all the thinking, because I had that same problem where I'd look at these routines and my brain would just shut down. They could be the simplest routine and my brain would just shut down and be like, well, I don't know, like, what do I do first, and what order, and what if I need to do this other random task first? And it's just
Right.
kind of funny how our brains work. So it's designed to just remove all the thinking. After you've aired the beds and put in a load of laundry, then you move on to unloading the dishwasher, or putting clean dishes away. I didn't even have a dishwasher for most of the time that I was doing this routine. And then you'll pick up the clutter, and the last task is 15 minutes, and it's just a weekly task. So like Mondays is zone cleaning, kind of similar to Fly Lady. And before Fly Lady, I've actually seen zone cleaning in quite a few different places, even in like 50s books. So it'll be 15 minutes in a zone of cleaning or decluttering, depending on what needs to happen. And then Tuesdays is bathroom, Wednesdays is cleaning out the fridge, Thursdays is dusting, Fridays is floors, and Saturdays is another 15 minutes in the zone, so that you can kind of keep up on all those little deep cleaning tasks. And
Yeah.
you're just guided through. You'll press play. I start off right away on the first one, tell you what to do, and then you just listen to the radio show while you do it, and you know that you're kind of running up against a timer. You know roughly how much time you've got, so you're kind of just racing against yourself to finish, and then it'll move on to the next task.
Yeah. That sounds amazing.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
Not to toot my own horn, it just really is so nice. It's the product that I needed,
Yeah. Yeah. I think so many of us need. Since following you a few months ago, it changed my algorithm. So I'm getting more of the, I guess, philosophical cleaning and young granny-esque, posts shown to me. And one of them stood out to me, and it was talking about how, and actually, maybe it was yours. Maybe this is one of the ways I found you. Because it sounds, now that I'm speaking about it, it sounds like something you've spoken about, where, like, all of these things 2-3 generations ago were always passed down, right? Kids were always involved in these tasks, and it just came naturally, and you were always shown these things. And kind of in the Industrial Revolution and World War II, World War I, Rosie the Riveter, when women really had to step in and start going to their manufacturing jobs, and kids stayed at home, like that kind of started to deteriorate that pass down of like how to take care of your home, for, I would say, for both men and women. And so like here we are today in our generation where We have overconsumption. We have so many things around our house, and really, and then, all of the distractions, and like, most of us do some form of work, and there's just so much to handle, and a lack of passed down information on how to handle it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of us really struggle to keep up with anything. And then, the spot that I'm in right now is, now everything is so overwhelming that, like, my brain, I talk about it all the time. My brain, like, seizes. It's like, we there's the reels that go around that are popular of, like, the mom brain, or like even just cleaning in general, right? You start the dishes and then you realize, I need more dish soap. Let me go write that down really quick on my list. And then, oh my gosh, I need to go do this. And then you just go in loops and you never ever actually do anything. It feels
Yes,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I've talked about that a lot before, where you constantly are task hopping, and then you've spent the whole day on your feet cleaning and working hard, but nothing's actually gotten done, which just makes it more discouraged. Recently, in a post, I talked about the concept of learned helplessness, where when we keep doing something and we don't see results from that effort, our brain starts to give up and try and protect ourselves, and
yeah,
it stops letting us do those things as easily. And that's
yeah,
where, like, procrastination and different things like that come in even more. And it's really difficult. And you mentioned how these things are being passed down less and less, and it's very true. People think, I'll get comments from people on my YouTube videos or on my Instagram who were taught these things and who it was passed down to, and they're like, this is common sense, and how could people not know this? Just really nasty comments. And I have to help them understand that, no, you were taught this, and that's
yeah,
why it feels like it was common sense to you. But just like most things in life, they're skills that you learn as a child and are taught as a child. And we have a few generations now. Like, I know with my mom's generation, it was almost shameful to desire to learn any of that. There was so much pressure. And this was actually, I'm not saying this in a bad way, because sometimes our world overcorrects for the greater purpose of good,
yeah,
obviously having greater rights as women and greater freedoms. Sometimes the culture, because I think women in some ways are our harshest critics,
yes,
overcorrects and pushes. Like, I know for her, she said, and this is just her experience, there was so much pressure to be in a career and to work and to denounce any of the homemaking things, that it got lost in the weeds that these are life skills that everyone needs to know, men and women, which I think is something is important to, for everyone to learn today. That you still need to know how to create a home that feels like a haven. If you are a career girly, I mean, people would consider me a career girly in a
mm-hmm,
way. You still want to be able to come home to a home that feels like a haven.
mm-hmm,
And everyone, needs to learn and be taught and pass these skills down. And so we're in kind of a time period where we're having to research and relearn these things from, bits and pieces of the past and from each other.
yeah, yeah. And there is a difference when you are the one to be the steward of your home versus, if you can afford to have somebody come help you around the house, it feels different. There's a sense of pride that comes with that, that you were the one to create your calm space, your haven for you, your family, whoever resides in your house. Like that, that's much more impactful. And so if we can kind of like wrangle ourselves and like get a routine like you have created, that's manageable, like that's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a book, and I reference it a lot, called The Art of Homemaking by Daryl V. Hull. And in it she talks about how it's easy as a homemaker to start doing all of these extra things and not do the basic things. She's like, your cleaning routine is your foundation that you build on throughout the day. So she's like, no one's going to notice, or you're not even going to feel the results of if you go and clean out a closet. If there's that closet could be the most beautiful, pristine, gorgeous closet ever that you just put so much work into and spent all day on. But if there's dishes in the sink and toys everywhere and food left out and, just grime everywhere, you're still going to feel terrible.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel like a haven. So her whole thing is like, just realize that it's just the foundation. You have to lay that foundation first. And then you get to do the things that build on that bring you joy, because I think there's a lot of things about homemaking and making our homes feel like a home that can bring us joy. I mean, whether you're, a plant girly and you love to have plants everywhere and tend your plants, or gardens, or sewing or decorating or any of these other things, sometimes it feels like we don't have time for those things, but it's really that we don't have the mental space for it because we're anticipating the foundation we need to lay and not wanting to do that routine,
Yes.
And that anticipating that and battling with ourselves on that takes all day.
Yeah.
And then we don't have time for the things that we wanted to do.
Yeah. That right there is where I am stuck. And honestly, like being super honest, I've been stuck there for many years. Like every day is this battle of like, I've got all the laundry. I've got all the dishes. I need to vacuum. I'm sneezing because my, carpet sheds, and I live in Texas, so there's dust everywhere. And then, and then I've also got to clean the toilets, and I've got to, and then I just freeze.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Freeze. And I might get to a task like doing the dishes, but like minimum, I don't like reset the kitchen because it's been piling up for too long, and that's where I've been stuck, and that speaks to me,
and you're so not alone in that at all. Like that's one of the most common things that I hear, and I'm sure when you do the dishes, it felt like that took all the energy that you had for the day,
and now usually I don't want to cook.
Yes, yeah, and usually that's actually like the mental energy from it, and that's why. And I kind of learned this from the business world. Systemizing as much as you can within the home makes such a big difference, and being able to put as much on autopilot as possible. Something that helped me, because I hate having to stop what I'm doing in order to go clean. No one likes, I don't know. There's people that do love to clean. I'm not one of those people that actually loves to clean. I just like to have a clean house. I like the results of the labor. I don't like the labor. But something that helped me was, at first, before I even created these routines, was timing the tasks. Because it made me realize that it didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. Even when it was really piled up, it didn't take that long. And that helped me, because it'd be like, all right, it's only going to be 15 minutes, and then I can couch rot if I want to. It's not a big deal. Yeah. Or it's only going to be 10 minutes to do 5 to put in a load of laundry, and so that helps. Same thing with, and that's what I wanted for people with the radio routines, is that they knew, okay, all I have to do is press play, and in 30 minutes it's still going to be better. It might not be perfect, but it's going to be better. And that's what I hope. I think perfectionism kills a lot of motivation for moms, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, and I find, I have the best of intentions, and there's a lot of things that I want to cook. There's a lot of things that I want to try. I want to make canning a regular part of my routine and try all these things, but my kitchen's dirty. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the room. And then I spiral, right? Then not spiral, I freeze, right? I can't do that today because I've got to clean first. Do I actually do all of the cleaning that I need to do? No. So it keeps me from exactly what you mentioned before, doing the things, the creative things, or the things that I want to do, that I'm excited to do, buy all the cookbooks, and I have the best of intentions, and I'm inspired, and then, there's the mess.
Exactly. Our mess can hold us captive, and It's so discouraging, and it's so discouraging when you don't feel like you have a way out, or when you feel like you've tried everything or so many different routines and so many different options and nothing's working. And it's easy to start like turning inwards and kind of beating up ourselves and being like, well, what's wrong with me, and why can't you get the hang of this, and it shouldn't be this hard, and whatever.
Yeah.
It's so easy for our brains to come up with nasty things to say to ourselves about stuff that's really just super normal and that most people struggle with on some level. And that's the thing, is just a clean house is really freedom. It's mental freedom. It's the freedom to do the things that you actually want to do in your home, and to create the memories that you actually want to create.
I love that so much. I love it. So if, let's say I was to get started tomorrow, what would you suggest for me?
Yeah, so my number one thing would be to not try and do everything at once. So
Woo.
with any
Thanks for that
routine,
permission.
yes, yeah, don't ever, like I know so many times I used to make this mistake too. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to turn over a new leaf, and I would try and get caught up. So I would go through and try and do everything at once and get the house on a clean slate before I could really start into a cleaning routine or something like that. So what I learned is that getting caught up is inevitable when you're making 1% improvement every day. So all you're trying to do is make your home at least 1% better every single day. So I always recommend, when people are like, okay, my house is trash, can I just start your routine, or do I need to do something else? I tell them, no, just start the routine. If everything doesn't get done completely, that's okay. Because after a week or 2 weeks of not overwhelming yourself and just doing that bare minimum of the routine, I do have an evening routine version that's pretty much the same tasks, but just finishes things up. Instead of starting a load of laundry, you like fold the laundry and put it away, or just put the laundry away.
Yeah.
So like I'll tell them, just do that. Don't focus on doing anything else. Don't try to deep clean anything. Don't start any projects. Just follow the routine. Just try to make it fit within that time period. In fact, even challenge yourself to not go overboard. Like, make it your goal to just do that. And go for consistency, doing it as many days in a row as you can. But if you skip a day, don't try and do 2 routines. Just do that day's routine. Because what I've found is the biggest issue when people are trying to tackle their homes is that they burn out and that they overwhelm themselves and they get into that perfectionism. So my number one thing would just be to aim for that 1% improvement. And honestly, even if you were just doing one of the tasks every day, it would still improve your house. And that's all we're trying to do, is just get a little bit of that relief. And then the relief is motivating in and of itself.
Yeah. Amazing. I have to know. So I think about this more than I'd like to admit. So your podcast is the 1950s radio shows. You obviously are listening to them and sourcing them. 1950s was a different time. And I'm sure there's things that culturally today we'd be a little shocked by that they were speaking about or whatever. How is that process for you when you are going through these shows and formatting them, fitting them to your podcast?
Yeah, it's oh my gosh, it used to really stress me out even more than it does now. I remember there was one time I was making a Thanksgiving challenge, and so I went through a bunch of different 1950s radios, and I found their Thanksgiving specials, and I'm putting them all together, and one of the episodes had blackface in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I caught that. Like, at first, especially because I'll be kind of cleaning along, like I'll edit it, and then I'll clean to it. I'm like, almost missed it. And then I'm like, wait, did he just do what I think? Did they just do what I think that they just did? And it was in like a derogatory way. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even, not that there's really anything innocent about it, but it really wasn't innocent. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I do try to vet them. A lot of times things do slip through because sometimes I'll be trying to push episodes together. So there's been times where people have had to be like, hey, this episode has this in it. And people are really understanding, you know, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'll take that down and put up a different one, you know.
Yeah.
Because it is easy to kind of just get in the flow of cleaning and miss it. And I can't always catch every little thing, you know. And there are other things that are like, I just have to kind of say, you know what, this was a different time period, you guys. Just know it's not going to be the most correct viewpoints, and view it as kind of just a piece of history. And you can kind of have, obviously it's grown-ups listening to the main routines, so they understand and have the common sense to decide if it matches their values or not. Like it's you know, not that deep kind of thing. But for the most part, it's not too bad. And most of the episodes are really so heartwarming, of the like comedy ones. We do comedy ones featuring Father Knows Best for the morning routine, and Fibber McGee and Molly for this evening routines. And so many of those episodes are so cute and heartwarming and funny and relatable as a parent, you know. And then the true crime ones usually don't have anything too crazy in it, because they're just they're like a crime detective show, you know. There's not really a whole lot of the everyday social aspects to get into.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's true. I do try to keep an eye out for them, because it was a different time.
Yes. Different time, for sure.
Oh, I think there was one episode too where I didn't end up putting up because it was just too, I don't know. I debated because it was Father Knows Best, and the whole debate was whether or not women should work or not, and the husband was being a complete jerk about it.
Yeah.
Saying that women shouldn't work, and his wife had been asked to speak on whether or not women should work, and he thought, because he was such a jerk, she made him believe that she was speaking saying that women should work even if they have kids at home, to teach him a lesson. And then she ended up speaking saying women shouldn't. And overall, I was like, we don't really need that dialogue and shame on here. I don't know, you know, everyone's made their opinions on that, but it was an interesting episode, and I did appreciate that she taught him, at least in that time period, to write them teaching him a lesson on not being so chauvinistic. Even if they did end up still kind of pushing that women shouldn't work or whatever, I appreciated that at least they did that much.
I mean, that was probably a little controversial back
I
then.
think it was. I think it really was a bit controversial at the time.
Yeah. So you've also, you know, read books and researched kind of from that time period as well. Cleaning routines and, you know, how to take care of your household. What are, I would say, two questions. One, what are some things that maybe took you by surprise that you were like, no, or made you laugh? And then after that, what are some of the things that were most impactful to you that you've adapted?
Yeah, so I think it was really interesting going into a lot of these texts with an open mind, because on one hand, there were the things that you would expect, like how it pushed women to be a certain way out of like kind of a moral aspect that wasn't necessary, you know, pushing the ideal of a woman. In all reality, I think even today people don't realize how much messaging we still are getting on the ideal. The ideal has just changed. But obviously there was that kind of thing that you expected to see, or like the weird, your husband will leave you if, which we are still getting that message today.
Yeah.
But most of the time, though, I was actually really impressed with how much these things were really based in trying to be supportive. The thing is that a lot of us nowadays are trying to do all of this and handle all of these tasks about running a home with less support than women had then. I mean, we look back and we're like, oh, well, they were only able to do it because they were high,
Yes.
But in reality, they also had a lot of systems in place, a lot of help. They were educated in it, men and women, but in home economics all growing up, and they were taught genuine systems and skills that they would need in their homes.
Yeah.
Colleges, you could go to school for it and really get an incredible education there. There's community classes and books, and your friends also were really knowledgeable. And so there really was a community of people that understood what it took, that, there's a wealth of information out there, and systems to help you be able to do all this. So that is something that I actually wish were still the case, that even though it may have been weird at the time, the value and the weight put on, how important that was for a woman, the benefit of that was that there were a lot of resources. And the other thing that surprised me in these books too was like The Art of Homemaking, like I mentioned, she does talk about having making sure that you get to have hobbies and that you get to have time for yourself and that you get to read interesting books that you like and that you get to grow your mind outside of just this home sphere, because it feeds your soul and prevents the burnout and prevents you feeling like you're just stuck in this Groundhog's Day that goes over and over again. There was a comment that it makes you more interesting to your husband. And that's where we lost the plot a little bit. But but I still appreciated that they were working on that. And also they said to take care of your health and do, the self-care things that you need to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that still, that just actually hasn't changed that much and that is on point with today.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point. I think in both the positive and the negative messaging that women and men were getting back then, today we look back on that as a culture and, we poo-poo it so much and we look down on it so much. And, the rise of feminist, the movement and all of that, totally shunned, what life was like back then for women. Some for good reason. But just like you were saying, honestly, a lot of that messaging has continued. It just sounds different. It just looks,
Yes.
it's packaged a little differently. But, men are still getting the same messaging that they did back then. Women are still getting the same messaging that we did back then. I think, maybe back then it was a little bit more focused on, presenting yourself, being your best self for your husband. And now today it's still that, but now it's also be that way for society, be that way for your friends, show up that way to lunch with your lady friends or your, whatever.
Yeah,
All of your
exactly.
friends. Present yourself that way all the time, even if it's like the messy mom, right?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
all a persona, like the mom bun and all that. Like you put that on yourself. That's now your identity, and that's how you are presenting. And it's all the same.
It really is. It's for better and for worse.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't made as much progress as we think we have. The progress that we have made in important like laws and key things is great, and I'm so grateful for it. There's still more to do,
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is that a lot of these core messages, we look back at the 50s and we're like, oh, that was horrible. And it was, but we miss that those messages are still here.
Yeah.
And it's important too. That's why I try with my platform. Obviously, it still gets missed. And no matter what, I've tried, different styles. I've tried toning down the vintage because I've always loved, the vintage aesthetic. So I learned that toning it down doesn't even work. No matter what you do. I mean, obviously, if you're in the homemaking niche, people are going to think that it's the kind of political content trying to push this agenda.
Yeah.
And that's really not the case. I try to help people know that, I believe anyone is a homemaker. I believe everyone is a homemaker, whether the word resonates with them or not. They don't have to claim that as their title. But whether you're working mom or stay-at-home mom or single or married or, religious or not religious or anything in between, ultimately we all need a haven in this world. We all need to be able to come to somewhere that nurtures us and that is the foundation of our memories and our peace. And that's what I think it really means to be a homemaker. And so that's why what I try to share with my platform is the joy of making your home a haven, and the different options and ideas and ways that you can do that, and to almost treat creating your home as a craft or as a creative outlet. Obviously, I grew up in a very, 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 very niche religious culture that I don't agree with now, but they did view homemaking as a calling. Unfortunately, they viewed that that's all that women should, it was like blasphemy to do anything else. Like I would, oh man, I'd be in trouble right now. But I do think that there is something to be said that for men and women, for families in general, creating a haven is ultimately our goals. And that's ultimately what we want, is to be able to make our family and our homes a haven.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in our crazy world.
Exactly. There's always so much going on and so much bad news out there.
Yep.
That we just need that more than ever. Somewhere to, regulate our nervous system, somewhere to be able to feel completely accepted and safe.
Yep. And that's going to take work.
Yes. Yep. And it can be a fulfilling work. And just like all work, that's the thing, is I don't expect, like I try to tell people, like, no, I promise you I don't like cleaning. I don't enjoy it. But just like with anything meaningful, there's the work we don't enjoy and the work that we do enjoy. And a lot of times the work that we don't enjoy has to get done first. That's the required stuff.
Yeah.
But it's important to build in the kind of work and the kind of ideas that we do enjoy into the process as well. And that's where things like, for a lot of women, sourdough or gardening or sewing or knitting or embroidery or decorating, kind of comes in to play.
Yeah. One of the things I have appreciated, and I've watched some of your YouTube and you speak about this, is that it's not about, you want to declutter, you want to have a manageable amount of stuff, but you don't need to go completely minimalist. And it'll I remember sitting in bed, I was watching it, and I took a deep breath, and it gave me permission because there was this huge movement, good intentions, I think, because we all have so much stuff. Which, side note, I think that also comes from the same generational pass down of simultaneously we stopped passing down the homemaking, but due to the traumas of society and the world and the depression and all that stuff, we and consumerism simultaneously, we've accumulated so much stuff, right? You look at boomers and they have so much stuff, that generation, and then that they, it's so emotional to them that then it gets passed down to their kids and that emotion stays with it. So then, we're the grandkids with the great grandkids, and there's so much stuff that we see heading our way. There's so much stuff that we want to buy for ourselves. So much stuff. So then you had the minimalist rise, right? Mm-hmm. And get rid of all your stuff. You don't need anything on your nightstand. You need your phone, maybe, or it's out in the other room if you're worried about, EMFs and radiation, and a light. That's it. That's all that should be on your table. And that's not warm to me. Minimalism for my house, for my brain, it's not warm. It's not the environment that I want to create. It doesn't resonate with me. You spoke about that. And
Yeah.
it was the first in like a cleaning routine, anything that like gave me permission to have a house that I want to have. And like I took a deep breath. It wasn't your platform is not about getting rid of your stuff. You have some tips on how to slowly do that, but that's not at the core what it is, and that took so much pressure off of me. I loved it so much.
I'm
So
so glad. I'm
yeah,
so glad because yes, that was something, and I even tried the minimalism thing because I struggled so bad to keep up with my space. At one point in time, I went so far in the minimalism direction. I got rid of my bed frame and was sleeping on a mattress on the floor with like one nightstand and like
yes,
just a little capsule wardrobe. And
yes,
but the
yep,
thing
yep,
is I love stuff. I love
yeah,
antiques and I love a warm cozy space. I want my
yeah,
home to feel like grandma's house because that's just kind
yes,
of my aesthetic.
yeah,
Um and I want it to feel lived in. And so the thing that I realized in the end, is that it's there is something to be said for owning less stuff. There does hit a
yep,
point, but and I do try to declutter and I have to declutter every now and then as well. I it's hard to get away with keeping everything, all the
yeah,
time. But it doesn't have to be so extreme. And I also felt the pressure from influencers and different people would be like, oh, yep, you just own too much stuff. You could have a clean
yep,
house if you just got rid of things.
right,
But there's things that I love and things that I love the look of. And I don't like the bare look. And if people do, that is so great. I'm just probably not
yeah,
the
yeah,
creator for them. I just think that there's balance, little maintenance things, getting rid of the things that don't bring you joy or don't contribute to that on a somewhat consistent basis. And that's why we have the 15 minutes of zone cleaning or decluttering on Mondays and Saturdays to kind of just keep up with that extra stuff that creeps in
yeah,
that we really don't necessarily want or need, that
yep,
makes it harder to clean and allows us to keep the things that we do love. Because ultimately, as long as we're able to maintain what we have, or we're able to be like I said earlier, that 1% better in our homes, we're able to have a routine. It's really not necessary to just not own anything in
yeah,
order to have a clean house. You can still
yeah,
have a warm, cozy space. And I mean, I've got little kitschy things everywhere.
yep, yeah. I love that. Going back to some of the research that you've done and learning about, kind of vintage cleaning. What are some things that resonated with you that you've adopted and now teach about?
Yeah, so one of the things that they did actually preach about a lot was conserving your energy. They were very systematic and treating it like a job. They straight up acknowledged that it was hard work and that it was essentially your job. That's what you were doing. Your vocation or your career was ultimately being a homemaker. And so, because they viewed things that way, they were really big on efficiency. And one of the things that they talked about in conserving energy, one lady said to have she used like one of those fabric old fashioned laundry carts that like fold and unfold.
Yeah.
And I actually got me one of those. But my house is really too small to need it. But I got it so that I can show in a video soon. But you could do this with a basket. You can do it with whatever. As she's going through her house and cleaning rooms, she'll throw in things that don't belong in that room. And as she moves room to room, she'll put them away. And obviously, many of us have seen that hack on social media in some form or another. And it was cool to see that it originated,
Yeah.
historically. But her thing as why she liked the rolling cart was because it conserved your energy. She also said not to lift like heavier things than you needed to, like to not get crazy with stuff. Obviously have days where like maybe you do move the couch and you clean
Yeah.
underneath it, but her whole thing was like really just try to preserve your energy so that you don't tire out and that you don't burn out. If there's an easier way to do something, do it the easier way instead of trying to be perfect about stuff. And I really liked that. That was a big one for me. Something else was a toy rotation system. One of the books that I read from the 50s did talk about having a toy rotation system, and that one's made a big difference for me with my daughter. It's so hard to not want to buy her all of the cute toys, but she does play better in a clean and tidy space. She'll play longer. She'll enjoy her toys more. She'll go back to them over and over again. So in the book, they talked about sewing up drawstring bags and just hanging them on pegs, like in the laundry room or something like that, that you can go get them out and dump them into the toy box, and switch them out or whatever. So in general, however anyone chooses to do a toy rotation system, that's worked really well for me, and that was a tip that they really pushed at the time too. I did see a lot about food storage. I think coming out of the depression and stuff like that, food storage was pretty common. So they would talk about storing canned goods and rotating through things and having a rotation system. I do think it's nice, especially in a post-pandemic world, having basics on hand that you do know how to use. So for some families that don't have a lot of experience on cooking with like flour and sugar and like just ingredients cooking, that could be having like, SpaghettiOs and ramen and soup kits and different things like that on hand in case of an emergency. And that's totally fine. In my opinion, that's totally fine. If you do know how to cook with flour and sugar and, having meat in your freezer and different things like that. I really liked that they had food storage back then. I think that that's something that can be adapted, but maybe, you don't have to do. They would go like, I think some people in the books talked about like up to a year, and I think just maybe at least like a month,
Yeah.
That tends to help. And especially if you use like a meal planning system. Like with my meal planning system, I pretty much have theme weeks. So I'll have like Mexican week, Italian week, and they'll be basically same base ingredients, just different ways, for the recipes. So we'll eat like the same meals once a month, and then we might switch one out here and there as long as it matches that theme week. So I'll store the base ingredients for all of those weeks, because like diced tomatoes, that's used in Mexican week and Italian week quite a lot, or whatever, just those different things like that. It can actually save a lot of money to buy in bulk, like case lot sales. And when you have a system, and they're big on that, systemizing everything, it makes for a lot of options on how to make your life easier. And that's, I think, really what they were about. Yeah.
I love the idea of themed weeks. I've never heard that before. It like instantly calmed my brain of like, like simplifying the grocery shopping and the meal prep, because like there are similarities throughout the whole week that you don't need to reinvent the wheel every night.
Yes. Yeah, that was my biggest thing. I figured that out last year, because I used to do like, I would watch all of these people talk about meal planning, and they'd have theme nights like sheet pan meal night, or Mexican night, Italian night, pizza night, casserole night, crock pot night, just all these different things. And the thing that I noticed, and this is especially because I do have a small family, but I found the system, my parents have tried this on their family that's quite a bit bigger than mine, obviously. And it's just, you waste so many less ingredients, and the grocery bills are so much less expensive, because you're really just buying more of a few ingredients, and there's so much less waste, because we would follow these theme nights, and there'd be leftover food that would go bad, or like if we did Mexican night, we wouldn't use all the cilantro, and we wouldn't use all the parsley from Italian night, and it just, we wasted so much money. So doing theme weeks was so easy, and it made like ingredient prepping so easy. So I have loved that, and I even have like the recipes that I specifically use on my website and everything like that, because most cultures really are just changing the core base ingredients around to make something that still feels new and fresh and delicious. So,
oh my gosh, as soon as we log off, I'm looking that up.
Yes, absolutely. It really is such a game changer. It's helped me so much, and It's one of my favorite hacks ever now because it just makes life so much easier,
Yeah.
and it's so easy. So easy to prep for and so easy to cook, because when you make one meal, usually you are also kind of making the ingredients for another meal like in a couple of days that way, and it's just perfect.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh, I'm excited. Okay. Um, so thinking about, how generationally we did not have the example that other generations did of homemaking. And I think a lot of our generation, specifically millennials, the older Gen Zs, we are raising our kids and we're seeing this and we're saying, I don't want to pass this down. I want something else for them. And so we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to like overhaul so many things, right? It's part of the reason why the Young Granny show came to be, because we're all trying to kind of, unearth these lost, passed down skills that we've now either created small businesses from or hobbies as our way to revive them. But cleaning, I know, speaking for myself and for my husband, like we definitely did not get that passed down. So now we really struggle in our chaotic lives to like get a grasp. And I see that in my son as well. And I don't want that for him and any other future kids that we have. I want, I don't want him to become an adult and be like, well, now what? I want him to have these skills that's just natural. So when he goes off to college or whatever he decides to do, like, doing his laundry is not it's not, a big deal that he's learning to have to do. He just knows how to do it. And it's not this like weight that he has to walk around with of like, gosh, I have to do my laundry. It's just something that he does. It's just part of his routine, right? So I think a big part of that is us demonstrating that we are learning, we are adapting these skills. We are, it's now something that we do as a family. But I think that you offer something called cowboy cleanup. Is that right?
Yeah, I do.
Tell us what that
So
is.
So that is the kids' version of the routine, and it does rotate through different stuff like a basic room cleanup. It does have them help clean a bathroom, so that they know how to do that. It does help them like clean out their desk and return school papers that need to be given to you and all that jazz. If they've and their backpacks, like if I think that's on Friday at the end of like the school week. So it rotates through everything. It does have like helping with the weekly tasks basically that just like parents would. And that's where I start like the younger kids and things like that, probably up until like 8 or so or 9.
Yeah.
and that just makes it really simple to where they can press play, they can follow along. It gives a hack of like I'll do this with my apron, or you can do it with your belt loop, where you can just loop like a plastic grocery sack through like your belt or through your apron string. And then that's how they throw their trash away. They walk around and they see any trash that they can throw away. And just kind of teaching them the basics. And then the grown-up routines are designed, especially the ones like true crime's more like the teenagers like that, to do that with their parents. You can turn them on and just have the whole family help. So like the comedy ones are great for that, for like 10 and up. They might still follow the printable version of the cowboy cleanup routine for their own rooms and things like that, so that they know how to maintain that stuff. But the whole family can listen to that cleaning routine podcast and help with the chores and cleaning up. The other thing that I always recommend too is creating what I call a delegation station. So like printing out and either putting them in those dry erase marker sheets or something, and displaying the routine so that you can be like, hey, go mark something off of today's routine. It'll show, Monday, and it's got the evening and the morning routine all on there, and they can just go check something off that hasn't been checked off yet. So they're at least being familiar with both watching you do the routines, hearing the routines if you're listening to ones that you're okay with them listening to, like the comedy ones. and also seeing the checklist themselves. The other thing is, like with my laundry system, I have laundry tags that tell you exactly what wash settings for each load of laundry, exactly what add-ins to include, whether or not they should be dried on, hot or cold or like warm, just different things like that. And those are for the laundry bins themselves when you're sorting. And that's another way that I can be like, oh, okay, well, go put in a load of laundry, put in Monday's load. It says Monday on it, and follow the instructions. And it makes delegation a lot easier without you having to carry the mental load of teaching them exactly what needs to be done and exactly how it needs to be done and in what order and all that stuff, because you can basically just press play on a routine or just send them over to the checklist or to the laundry bin tag or, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I love that so much.
It makes life so much easier because we don't need to be reinventing the wheel or having to carry that mental thing of figuring every little thing out all at once. And it's so nice when you can offload it to someone else. And that was my goal, was to be that someone else that they can offload the thinking to. And I wonder, I don't think I have one right here. I might. I even designed some magnets that I'm going to be sending out this month to people who've joined the membership, where you literally just put it on the fridge and you scan it. It's a little QR code and it'll pull up the routine so you can press play.
Oh, cool.
So the goal is just to make things, and whatever, routine you choose, you can totally do this with other people's routines online. Whatever you choose to do, I just always recommend trying to make it as easy as possible for yourself to where you can offload that mental labor, because you don't need to be doing both, Yeah. It's great if you can just do the legwork and not have to think about it and just, set up a little station for yourself that gets you started in the mornings.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So one of the things that I learned from, it was either your YouTube or one of your Instagram reels, was that like instantly made sense in my brain. And I think I saw it at the perfect time where Texas's weather in the morning and at night has started barely to dip a little bit, enough to where like I can open the window for 5 minutes before the air conditioning pops on, but is to air out your bed. So I will, whenever I'm a slow morning girl. So my brain, I'm not a morning person. My son isn't either. It's part of the reason why we homeschool. Like, mornings are not our jams. It's very slow. And so when I finally get up to brush my teeth and my hair and get ready, like, I'll go into my bedroom first. I'll pull back my sheets, open up my window first, pull back my sheets. When I first saw you, you were beating the bed with your pillows a little bit, and I was like, that's silly, but I automatically do it because it just makes sense for some reason. And then, turn on my fan so I get a little extra air circulation, and then go get ready, and then close my window and finish making the bed. It has made such a difference in the air quality in my house, and like the freshness and the relaxation in my bedroom. Like, my husband has no idea that I do it, but he feels more relaxed in our bedroom. So like, there are things that you teach about that like I would never thought to do, that are so easy to incorporate for me. And that has not occurred in any other routine that I've found, or tips and tricks. Like, I never actually adopt them. This one, I just went right to it, and it's been something that I do now, and I look forward to it, and it's amazing. So
yay!
I am excited to start with the daily routines. I see that just starting the routine and getting that foundation will make us, it's slow, but it will make a difference in the amount of clutter and work that needs to be done. Even if I don't finish it all that, initially, you're slowly chipping away at it. And I think part of your magic is that you're giving us permission to do that, because there's so many you said it earlier, like you have this idea in your head that I'm going to turn over a new leaf and I'm going to get it all clean first and then start this routine, and like you don't actually need to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, oh man, it's the biggest mistake that I see. And that's why I try so hard to help people know that they don't have to do that, because it's unnecessary and it's burnout, and slow and steady really does win the race. And that's one of those, old fashioned things that we'd always hear people say, but it's true.
Yeah.
And a lot of the problems that we experience in our homes is like problems of our own mental making and putting too much pressure on ourselves. But I love that you mentioned the airing your bed trick, because that was one of those old-fashioned things. I found that in a book from like I think 1910 or 1912, teaching little girls how to clean their homes, because there's even children books about cleaning and stuff and tending a home in the future. And I was like, oh, that's so brilliant. And it just makes such a big difference to start with that little bit of fresh air.
Yeah.
Let that into, like, let our beds air out. And that's really just the goal, is to get these little tiny habits and these little tiny wins into your day, first thing in the morning and then like in the evening times too, eventually. But, that's all it takes. Like I even tell people, you don't have to do the evening routine at all. You can just do the morning routine and it'll get you started,
Yeah.
And if you want, add in the evening routine later. I have a lot of people that all they do is the morning routine and they still see the difference after just a few days or a few weeks of doing it, depending on, how behind that they feel they are in their home.
Yeah.
But that's the goal, is just a little bit of progress, finding those little, getting into... As an ADHD girly, I can't get into habits. Yeah. That's why I need the podcast, is because it almost mimics that for me. As all I have to do, the only habit I have to get into is to press play on it. And then the rest kind of takes care of itself. So that's really the goal for people, is to just take it a little bit at a time. Whatever routine that you do or whatever, you are trying to start to make your home feel better, just bite off little bites.
Yeah. It is very important, I think. And I'm excited to get started. I haven't owned headphones in a really long time, because I won't do the Bluetooth. It kind of freaks me out. So I've wanted wired ones, and they all hurt my ears. So I just found a pair that arrived today, I think, for me to start. So I was waiting to subscribe until I found some headphones that work.
That's really is key. All headphones hurt my ears too. My ears are just, they're small, tiny ears. I'm only 5 feet tall, so I need everything miniature size. And but I started using open ear ones, which, I mean, the Bluetooth's still not good for you, but I started using those, and that helped a lot. Finding just a good pair of headphones, or some people just exclusively do the comedy routines. If it makes a big difference, to be able to get going.
Yeah.
And I do talk about that too. I think I did a blog post recently. I'm trying to remember exactly which one it was, because I do post quite a few of them. But it talked about setting yourself up to win, and basically making sure that you have the tools that you need, that this is kind of like a job. And, you wouldn't see someone working at a construction site and they're not provided the tools they need to get the job done, or a secretary without a keyboard and a computer, or whatever. Yeah. So, I always recommend people set themselves up with the tools, whether it's keeping, and also, honestly, setting up a Go station or whatever, kind of by your bed or close to you in the morning, or by your coffee in the morning, having your headphones, your cleaning caddy or apron, and like, obviously, a way to, maybe it's the printable routine or a checklist or something like that, some shoes and a snack, laying that out in the morning or whatever, so that you're ready to go first thing, can actually make a big difference. Just making sure that you have the tools that you need to be able to succeed,
Yeah. I love that so much. So the last thing I wanted to chat about is I talk a lot about the art of slow living. I think in our chaos world and chaotic minds, it takes a lot of effort, but it's so needed for our mental health to figure out those moments where we can go slow, where we can tune into ourselves and give our brains a break. And when you start to do it's akin to like romanticizing,
Yes.
your everyday life. Very much similar. And I have found that doing things like doing the dishes, I hate putting them away. I will wash dishes all day long, except it takes me some brain power to like get started. But once I'm doing it, that, the warmth of the water, the rhythmic brushing, and, my brain, it's similar to crochet for me,
Yes.
where it's this rhythmic, my body has something to do that's predictable for my brain. I'm getting some sensory input that is soothing, so my brain can kind of wander and maybe work through some things, have your fake arguments in your head to like work out some aggression, or, think about something lovely, or, that you want to go do. That's so important in our lives. And we've lost a lot of that, right? The invention of the dishwasher took a lot of that away. So there's a lot of these things that I think are so important. And then you start to look forward to it once you adapt those. Do you feel, because you obviously use your system and you get feedback about your system, do you feel that people, once they have gone a couple weeks in the daily routines, do you feel like that is something that they start to experience, that they look forward to this? I think cleaning these days, compared to everything else, can be considered a moment of slowness in our lives because you're so intentional about what you're doing, but it's easy. Do you feel like they start to enjoy it a little bit more? It's something that they look forward to?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I feel like cleaning in general can be such a meditation almost. And so I do get a lot of emails where people say how much doing it has helped their mental health, because it can both be a meditation and it is also self-care. Cleaning your home is an act of self-compassion for your future self, But there's so much about that when you can take the mental commentary about what you're doing, like the mental judgmental commentary, and shut it off. And
Yeah.
that's like what the goal is, with those routines. You start to really enjoy and slow down and just putter. Like I call it puttering or dilly-dallying, like being able to just kind of putter around your house and you're touching these things that do bring you joy or that almost care for you, like your dishes, they, they hold the food that feeds your family,
Right.
and your bed is where, and your children's beds, they're where they rest and where they find peace every night and where you find peace every night, and just all of these different things. It's like, it's so tactile. It really is very much like knitting or crochet or embroidery. I totally agree. And I do find people not only having a cleaner space helps their mental health, but I've had people say that the routines themselves, doing them and slowing down, actually does just inherently help their mental health. So they'll do them not even for the benefit of having a clean house after. Like, they're like, I've had people say that they do multiple routines in a day just because they enjoy it so much and it makes them feel so at peace that they'll just keep listening.
I love that. That must feel so good for you.
Oh, it's so good. It's still, I had someone ask me the other day what the most surprising thing has been about this business. And it honestly still surprises me every time I get a message. Not that it worked for someone, because I know it works, like it's important to me to make a product that is really, really good, but it surprises me like how humbling it is and how much it still touches my heart every day to get messages from people saying that their lives are changed, their homes are changed, and that they're happier and healthier, and that they finally feel that relief after trying everything under the sun. And it really means so much. It has not stopped at all or faded, like that little bit of surprise and like awe that I'll feel an honor to get messages like that.
Yeah. That's so special. I love it. And it sounds like, I mean, this came so the Domestic Daydreams brand itself came from something you adopted for yourself. Who knew it would get you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. It's definitely super surprising that it all grew into this, you know. So, and in a good way. It's super surprising in a good way.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, last thing, somebody who's new to you, where do you suggest they start? Where would you point them?
Yeah, so I would suggest they go to either my blog, domesticdaydreams.com/blog, because you can find, you know, my YouTube videos, my podcast episodes, everything like that's kind of on there. Or to go to radio.domesticdaydreams.com/links, and that's where you'll find free episodes to try of my cleaning routines. You can get information on the membership in there. It's got links to my YouTube and podcast as well. So it's a great place to start to try and, you know, snag those freebies. I do have links to the freebies as well in almost every single blog post that I publish. So it could be just kind of a fun way to dip your toes in the water and see if the system will work for you. I have videos on how it compares to Clean Mama and Fly Lady and all these other ones, because I think those routines are fantastic too, and they might even be better fits for people. And so I've got videos helping you decide, you know, when that might be the case. So just go ahead and swing over, take a look, and see if you can find something that helps make your life a little easier.
Yeah, I'll make sure to put all of those in the show notes so you can just click them. And yeah, I'm really intrigued by the cowboy cleanup for my son.
Yes.
He likes to race me, so I think if I put that on for him and I put mine on for me, I can make a faux race.
I think that would work. Yeah. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, Cheyenne, it was so much fun, so relieving to speak with you and learn about things today. I loved having you on. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to The Young Granny Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share with your fellow old souls. Until next time, keep embracing your inner granny.